Recently in streams, I had a chatter ask the question about basically advice for how to date someone if you and them are neurodivergent. And in the case that we were talking about, they were autistic and their um, partner had ADHD. And bit of an interesting question. If I'm being honest, it's not a question I'd thought of. It's not one I'd considered that much, which is strange because I am autistic. But I thought it'd be good for us to sort of tackle it as a sort of a generic subject. What do you do? If you are someone who is neurotypical, what do you do if you are dating someone who is neurodivergent? What do you do if it's the other way around? What if you're neurodivergent dating a neurotypical? Or what if you're both neurodivergent? What is the advice? What can we suggest to help you? Well, here's the interesting thing there is no advice. Sounds a bit bad, that, doesn't it? No advice. Well, yes, but this is probably the one part of a neurotypical life that can actually be copied and pasted into a neurodivergent life in relationships. I don't know if you've heard this advice given to neurotypicals, but I'm going to throw it out there anyway. The key for a good relationship, the key thing for a good relationship is good communication. Always number one in a relationship for neurotypicals is good communication. Now let's think about it. Is that any different? We're all human beings. We all thrive off good communication with individuals. So actually, we can still do a copy and paste. Now, that's not to say we do a copy and paste of exactly what they do, because every individual is different. Every individual has a certain way that they prefer to communicate, and everyone has a certain way they prefer to be communicated to. And obviously, when you're neurodivergent, you communicate in a different style, a different pattern to those that are neurotypical. And the same in terms of how you receive it. You will receive it in a different way. And so, in a sense, the job is both harder and easier. Here's how it's harder. Very much like any sort of situation, you're probably going to take things the wrong way. You're probably going to say things the wrong way. And you're probably going to cause a bit of upset. That's how it is. But there's one key area, particularly if you are a neurodivergent dating a neurodivergent, where you end up having a huge advantage. Because both of you will have likely been in a situation where you've been misunderstood, where you've heard someone else say something incorrectly. You know what I'm talking about? And this is where you can work together. This is where you can talk to each other and work out those plans and find out how it is that each other communicates, how it is each other prefers to be communicated to. Find the happy middle that will work for the both of you. Yes, there is a little bit of compromise, but it's about finding what works and knowing that you've made someone happy by working out a way to communicate that works for the both of you. That's part of the joy. Now, the one thing I cannot do, sadly, is give you the key of exactly how to communicate to somebody else, because everyone's different. And here's the thing, even if I did, I wouldn't give it to you. Now, that's not because I don't like you. That's not because I don't want the best for you, but actually, it's because I want the best for you. See, the journey is just as good, if not better, than the destination. To journey, to travel is better than the destination. And why is that the case? Well, I want you to imagine that you are in one of the tombs of Egypt, right? You know what I'm talking about? And sort of like the Indiana Jones sort of style where there's treasure at the end, right? Now, the thing is, you could just focus on that treasure, focus on the end goal, and that's what you're going to go for. In fact, you're going to sprint right to the end. Bit dangerous, but oh well, that's your thing. But here's the thing, particularly with those sort of tombs of Egypt, and you could probably apply this in other areas as well. If you slow down, took a look at the walls, took a look at the beautiful hieroglyphics that are written on there, the history that's written on there, the stories that are written on there, that can become just as valuable, if not more, than the end goal, the treasure. And so, as you start to find out about your partner, you will find out little things about them. And it will start off with the generic stuff, what's your favourite music, what's your favourite, that sort of thing. But the more and more time you spend with them, it starts to become deeper stuff. And there will come a point where you've just been given something. You've been given a very, very special privilege. Well, I'm going to take an example in this. There is a close friend of mine that I know information about because they're a friend. And I am one of about 7 people in the entire world that know this information. Now, some of those 7 or 8 or 9, I can't remember exactly how much the number is, but it's definitely about 10 or less, right? Some of those had to know, right? Some of those had to know for reasons. Some of those just so happened to be in that place at that time to know the information anyway, almost like witnesses to what had happened, right? But I was someone that was given that information because they trusted me and trusted that I would be respectful, discreet about it. I will also use that to find the best way to speak to them about things. I tell you, that day that I was given that key, I still am yet to know everything about that person. That day I was given that key felt a very, very special feeling. Because this is what it's like. I want you to imagine for your own lives right now that every big event in your life, every middle sized event in your life, every friend of yours, every family member of yours, close family member, every hobby, every holiday, every job, every relationship. I want you to imagine every single one of them being a chapter in a book. So first things first, how big is that book going to be? Huge. You want to read it ridiculously fast on one day? No, you want to enjoy that sort of story. if it was somebody else's life. You want to be absorbed in the story. You want to take your time over it. You want to see what there is to know about it. But this is something even special. Do you remember those diaries that had a padlock on? Imagine that 2 or 3 of those chapters have a padlock. And you have to, in a sense, go up to the person and ask for a key. And because they trust you, they give you that key. How closely are you going to hold it in your heart because you've been given that trust? You see, that is part of the joys of a relationship. That is part of the joys of, working things out on a long-term scale. It's also one of the reasons why you overlook the potential negatives when you misunderstand something or you're misunderstood by your partner and it causes a little bit of hurt, because that's, in a sense, that's a learning curve. You've now learned something more and you can gain joy from it. So that's just a little thinking I had on neurodiversity and relationships. But in a sense, whilst perhaps the way you would get to that goal is different, the key to your relationship exactly the same as a neurotypical one. You need to find the perfect communication between the two of you.